Hi everyone. Hopefully you watched the first video that talked a little bit about who refugee claimants are and how they're being challenged by the current coronavirus pandemic in Canada. But I'm here with my friends Alison and Danielle, and they're going to share a little bit more about what we can do as congregants, as people across Canada, what we can do to make a difference in the lives of refugee claimants. So advocacy is very important. Sometimes one of the best things we can do is raise our voice and ask our government leaders to make a difference in the way that policies and systems are working. So we do have a Hear Us Out action alert that will be linked in the bio, in the video description below, and you can learn more about how to ask your MP to support refugees in Canada now and in the future. But Danielle, I think you had a little bit to say on that as well. What would you like to share?
So as I mentioned in the last video, many refugee claimants who cross irregularly are crossing at this place called Roxham Road in Quebec. So it's a very easy spot to control. The RCMP is stationed there. Refugee claimants cross the border and present themselves to the RCMP. It's very much a controlled situation. And before the pandemic, that was happening and people were being allowed to seek refugee status in Canada. Now the RCMP is turning people around, sending them back to the US where they can be deported, back into unsafe situations. Their rights are just not being protected. They're not able to seek protection, and we're concerned about that. So to advocate, this is a federal responsibility, so you would contact your member of parliament and just urge them to protect the rights of refugee claimants who are coming to seek protection in Canada, including irregular arrivals through Quebec.
Are there ways that people can volunteer, or I know it's hard to volunteer in person right now during social distancing, but are there ways that people can provide welcome and help in ways that would meet the needs of refugee claimants who are already in Canada?
Yeah, I think you're right. Absolutely. The volunteer needs are different now than under normal circumstances. And I think they're probably unique to each context and changing constantly, right? Because our situation is evolving. I think the best thing I would say is if you live in an urban center in Canada, most likely there is an organization or a shelter that's there that supports refugee claimants. So reach out to them and look them up, call them and find out if there's specific things, specific ways you can be supporting them now. I mean, all across Canada, there are some great faith-based organizations that walk with refugee claimants. In Vancouver, there's places like Kinbrace and Journey Home. I know in Winnipeg, Naomi House is a great place. In Ontario, we have there's Matthew House Network in Windsor and Fort Erie, Ottawa, and in Toronto, lots of shelters, Adam House, People's House, Romero House, Hamilton, Danielle mentioned Micah House, and of course, open homes as well. But yeah, be in touch with them. And I think that there are things that we need support with. I know if you are in Hamilton, we're looking for more hosts. A lot of our current hosts are having to step back for different reasons, mostly because we got a lot of pregnant women, but good reasons. Yeah, so do reach out and find out how you can get involved.
And one thing I've learned in my conversations with different refugee advocates as in making these videos is sometimes it really is your donation dollars, your money that can make a really big impact in helping refugees right now, especially when we're socially distanced. We can't actually get out and do some of the things we normally would do. And so if you have the dollars right now, where are some good ways for people to donate so that they can have the biggest impact?
I would say to me, yeah, definitely. Any of those organizations that we talked about volunteering, they also need financial donations to make things happen. So supporting local organizations is really important. I personally am convicted that this is a time that we also need to be supporting some of the things happening overseas, because there's like refugee settlements, refugee camps in places that are just having a much, it's just much harder when you're, so crowded and so under-resourced to be able to fight COVID there. So supporting some of the partner agencies that are on the ground in refugee camps, setting up sanitation centers and providing soap and food. I think we could be extra generous and support, here and there right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I will definitely say it is worth it to support open homes where Danielle and Alison work in Hamilton. I know they won't say it themselves, but I personally have seen them working their butts off to make sure that the refugees who are here and being supported by them right now are getting everything they need, even while following all the proper safety protocols. They're going above and beyond. So if you're in the Hamilton area and you want to support these guys or volunteer with them, the information will be in the video description below. And finally, prayer. Prayer is so important, is paramount, really. So how can people be praying for refugee claimants right now? Danielle, do you want to start?
Well, as the pandemic has revealed, many newcomers, many refugee claimant friends are working in the very jobs that have been identified as essential services. They're working in meatpacking plants. They're working as PSWs in long-term care homes. They're working as temp workers that are going between different long-term care homes. They're uniquely vulnerable and they're filling an essential need. Our country needs refugee claimants and newcomers. I mean, I think that's a spiritual reality, but it's also a deeply economic reality. And I just pray that that refugee welcome is enhanced during this time, and that we see the value that refugees and refugee claimants bring, and decide to really protect that as this continues and afterwards.
Yeah, and I think I would add to that to pray for the church during this time, because I think we're bombarded with a lot of messages that we should take care of ourselves first, sometimes just exclusively, that taking care of others isn't that important. But I think that's not what Jesus tells us, and it's pretty clear to me in scripture about our call to welcome the stranger, to offer hospitality, to love the foreigner the same as we love our citizens. And that doesn't change during COVID times. So I would invite us to pray that the church would hold on to that calling and live into that calling and be courageous as we try to be creative in how we do that.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that very important reminder. So I do invite those of you who are watching this to consider, how can you pray? How can you donate? How can you volunteer or provide welcome? How you can advocate? And check out the links below and think about all of these things as you are celebrating World Refugee Day with us. Thank you so much for watching this video.